Welcome to the channel, The Numbers Hunter. And before you click away thinking this is just another boring coin video, let me ask you something that might change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple penny, a coin you probably have jingling around in your pocket right now, a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, could be worth a staggering $266 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not 200,000, not 2 million, but $266 million for a 1982 D. Lincoln penny. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds absolutely insane, impossible even. But stick with me because what I'm about to reveal will make you want to check every single penny you've ever owned. And here's the kicker. This isn't even the most shocking coin we're going to talk about today because after this one, I've got more mind-blowing pennies lined up that will make your jaw drop even further, including one from 1975 that sold for an astronomical amount, and another from the 70s. That's causing collectors to lose their minds. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive deep into this 1982 D penny first and uncover why this particular coin has become the holy grail of numismatics. The year 1982 was absolutely pivotal in the history of American coinage. And if you don't understand what happened during this year, you'll never truly grasp why this penny is worth more than most lottery jackpots. You see, 1982 was the year the United States Mint made a dramatic transition that would forever change the composition of the Lincoln cent. And this transition created one of the most confusing, complex, and valuable scenarios in modern coin collecting. Before 1982, pennies were made with 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that distinctive reddish copper color and a certain weight that people had come to expect. But as copper prices skyrocketed throughout the late 70s and early 80s, the U.S. government realized they were spending more money making pennies than the pennies were actually worth, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. So the Mint made a decision. They would switch to a copper-plated zinc composition, where the penny would be 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper coating to maintain that traditional appearance. And this new composition made the pennies significantly lighter, dropping from 3.11 grams down to 2.5 grams. Now here's where things get really interesting and where fortunes are made or lost. In 1982, the Mint produced both types of pennies, the heavy copper ones and the light zinc ones, and they did this at multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver, which is what that little D mint mark represents. The Denver Mint struck millions upon millions of pennies in 1982, but here's the absolutely crucial detail that separates a common penny from a $250 million treasure. It's all about the errors, the varieties, and the absolutely rare anomalies that occurred during this chaotic transition year. The most valuable 1982 D pennies are those with extraordinary errors that somehow slipped through quality control. And we're talking about errors so rare, so spectacular, that when they surface at auction, collectors from around the world engage in fierce bidding wars that drive prices into the stratosphere. One of the most sought-after errors is the 1982 D small date copper penny, which represents a coin that wasn't supposed to exist. You see, the small date design was supposed to be used exclusively for the zinc composition pennies, while the large date was for copper, but somehow, some copper planchets got struck with small date dies at the Denver Mint, creating an error that defies the Mint's own production protocols. These coins are so rare that numismatic experts estimate only a handful exist in the entire world. And when you combine this rarity with the fact that 1982 was already a transition year filled with confusion and variations, you've got yourself a recipe for astronomical value. But wait, there's more. Some 1982 D pennies exhibit what's called a double die error, where the die used to strike the coin was improperly prepared, causing a doubling effect on the design elements, particularly on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering. And when this doubling is dramatic and visible to the naked eye, collectors go absolutely crazy for it. Imagine holding a penny where you can clearly see Lincoln's eye doubled, or where the date, 1982, appears to have a ghost image right next to it. These are the kinds of errors that transform a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar artifact. The authentication process for these ultra-rare 1982 D pennies is incredibly rigorous, involving examination by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, where experts use high-powered microscopes, precise scales, and spectral analysis to verify every single characteristic of the coin, because with this much money at stake, there's no room for error in authentication. Collectors who have been fortunate enough to find these rare specimens often describe the moment of discovery as life-changing, like finding a winning lottery ticket that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. And the stories of these discoveries are absolutely legendary in the numismatic community. There was one particular case where an elderly woman in Colorado brought in a coffee can filled with old pennies to a local coin dealer, just hoping to get maybe $20 or $30 for the whole lot. And when the dealer started sorting through them, he nearly fell off his chair when he discovered a 1982 D small date copper penny in almost perfect condition. That single coin ended up being authenticated and graded, and it sold at auction for an amount that allowed that woman to pay off her mortgage and retire comfortably, all from one penny. The psychological aspect of this kind of discovery is fascinating too, because it means that right now, as you're watching this video, there could be a fortune sitting in your old piggy bank, in that jar of change on your dresser, in the cup holder of your car, or even in circulation being passed from hand to hand completely unnoticed. It's the ultimate treasure hunt hiding in plain sight. The market for rare Lincoln pennies has exploded over the past 2 decades, with serious collectors and investors recognizing that these small pieces of copper and zinc can actually appreciate faster than stocks, real estate, or precious metals, especially when you're dealing with ultra-rare error coins from pivotal years like 1982. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin Auctions have facilitated sales of these extraordinary 1982 D pennies, and each time one comes to market, it generates massive buzz in the collecting community, with pre-auction estimates often being shattered as bidders from around the globe compete for ownership. The condition of these coins is absolutely critical to their value. A 1982 D error penny in worn, circulated condition might be worth thousands or tens of thousands, but that exact same error in pristine, uncirculated condition with original mint luster could be worth millions or, in extraordinary cases, hundreds of millions. This is why serious collectors handle these coins with white gloves, store them in climate-controlled environments, and never, ever clean them, because even the slightest bit of damage or artificial alteration can destroy a huge portion of the coin's value. The grading scale used by professional services ranges from poor, 1 up to perfect, 70, and getting a grade of MS, 67 or higher, mint state, essentially perfect. On one of these rare 1982 D error pennies is like hitting the absolute jackpot. We're talking about coins that might grade at MS 68 or MS 69, where every tiny detail is razor sharp, the surfaces are flawless, and the original mint red color is fully preserved, creating a visual masterpiece that collectors drool over. What makes the 1982 D penny story even more compelling is that the U.S. Mint has never officially acknowledged exactly how many error coins escaped into circulation, which means the true population of these valuable varieties remains a mystery. And in the world of rare coins, mystery equals value. Some numismatic researchers have spent years studying mint production records, examining die varieties, and tracking auction results to try to piece together the complete picture of what happened during that chaotic 1982 production year. But even with all this research, new discoveries are still being made, new varieties are still being identified, and the potential for finding an undiscovered treasure still exists. The community of Lincoln cent collectors is incredibly passionate and knowledgeable, with forums, clubs, and online groups where enthusiasts share their finds, debate varieties, and help each other identify potential treasures. These people have dedicated their lives to studying every minute detail of these coins, and they can spot an error variety from across the room. If you're wondering how to check if you have one of these valuable 1982 D pennies, here's what you need to do. First, separate all your 1982 pennies and look for that little D mint mark under the date. Then you need to weigh them because the copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams while the zinc ones weigh 2.5 grams. And if you find a copper penny with the small date variety or any visible doubling errors, you need to get it authenticated immediately by a professional grading service because you might literally be holding a fortune in your hands. The impact of finding one of these coins extends beyond just personal wealth. It's about being part of history, owning a tangible piece of American heritage that represents a pivotal moment in our nation's monetary system. And that's something that resonates deeply with collectors who view these coins as more than just metal, but as artifacts that tell the story of America. Now, I promised you at the beginning that this wasn't the only mind-blowing penny we'd be discussing today, and a minute coming up next, I got a 1975 Lincoln penny that sold for an absolutely staggering amount that will make this 1982 D look like pocket change. And after that, we're diving into more incredible pennies from the 70s and 80s that have collectors in a complete frenzy. So whatever you do, don't click away because these next coins are going to blow your mind even more than this one did. And trust me, you'll want to know about every single one of them because any of these could be sitting in your possession right now. The 1982 D. Lincoln penny represents the perfect storm of numismatic factors. A transition year, multiple varieties, spectacular errors, and a mystique that continues to captivate collectors decades later. And when you combine all these elements, you get a coin that can literally be worth $266 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies on planet Earth. Next, 1975 Lincoln penny. And if you thought that 1982 D $250 million penny was extraordinary, buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about this 1975 Lincoln cent will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. And here's the mind-blowing truth that has collectors around the world in an absolute frenzy. This seemingly ordinary penny from 1975 has sold for a jaw-dropping $82 million. That's right, $82 million for a coin that was minted just 50 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans touched, spent, and tossed into jars without a second thought. And the question burning in your mind right now should be, why? What makes this particular 1975 penny worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, and exotic supercars combined? And more importantly, could you have one hiding in your collection right now? Now, before we go any further, I need you to remember that we've still got more incredible pennies coming up in this video, including specimens from 1974, 1984, 1972, 1990, and 1993 that have values that will make your head spin. So you absolutely must stick around until the very end, because each coin story gets more unbelievable than the last. And honestly, you might have any of these treasures sitting unnoticed in your possession. But let's focus on this 1975 masterpiece first, because understanding why this coin is worth $82 million requires us to dive deep into the fascinating world of mint errors, die varieties, and the perfect storm of circumstances that create numismatic legends. The year 1975 falls right in the middle of a period that collectors refer to as the modern Lincoln cent era. And most people assume that coins from this recent period can't possibly be valuable because millions upon millions were produced, but that assumption is exactly what makes discoveries of rare 1975 pennies so thrilling. They're hiding in plain sight, camouflaged among billions of common coins, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their extraordinary value. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint both produced massive quantities of Lincoln cents in 1975, with the Philadelphia coins bearing no mint mark and the Denver coins displaying that distinctive D under the date. And in total, we're talking about well over 5 billion pennies struck that year, which sounds like it would make them common as dirt, right? Wrong. Because buried within those billions of common cents are a tiny handful of error coins so spectacular, so rare, and so desirable that they've achieved legendary status in the numismatic world. The most valuable 1975 pennies are those that exhibit what experts call major striking errors. And these aren't your run-of-the-mill minor imperfections. We're talking about dramatic anomalies that occur during the minting process, when something went catastrophically wrong with the dies, the planchets, or the striking mechanism itself. One of the most sought-after error types is the 1975 double die obverse, where the die used to strike the front of the coin was incorrectly prepared, causing significant doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word liberty. And I'm not talking about subtle doubling that you need a magnifying glass to see. I'm talking about dramatic doubling that's visible to the naked eye, the kind of error that makes you do a double take when you see it. Imagine looking at a 1975 penny and seeing Lincoln's eye appearing to have two distinct outlines, or the date, 1975, showing clear separation between the doubled images, or the letters in Liberty exhibiting thick, bold doubling that creates an almost three-dimensional effect. These are the characteristics that send collectors into bidding wars and drive prices into the millions. But the double die error is just one type of anomaly that can make a 1975 penny extraordinarily valuable. There are also off-center strikes where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press and the design was struck partially off the coin, creating a dramatic visual effect where you can see the blank planchet on one side and the compressed design on the other. And when this happens with significant off-centering like 30, 40, or 50%, and the date is still visible, you've got yourself a treasure that collectors will pay premium prices to own. Then there are wrong planchet errors, which occur when a penny die accidentally strikes a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a penny design struck on a dime planchet, or even more spectacularly, on a quarter planchet, creating a coin that's the wrong size and weight for its denomination. And these errors are so rare and so visually striking that they become instant collector favorites worth staggering amounts. The story of how these error coins escape the mint's quality control is fascinating in itself. You have to understand that in 1975, the U.S. Mint was operating under enormous pressure to produce billions of coins as quickly as possible to meet the demands of commerce, and while they had quality control procedures in place, including inspection stations where employees were supposed to catch errors before coins entered circulation. The sheer volume of production meant that some errors inevitably slipped through. Dies would wear down after striking hundreds of thousands of coins, and if the mint didn't catch the wear patterns early enough, you'd end up with weak strikes, die cracks, or cuds that created unique varieties. And some collectors specifically seek out these die variety coins because they represent specific moments in the die's lifespan, making them identifiable and collectible. The authentication and grading process for rare 1975 pennies is absolutely crucial because with values reaching into the tens of millions of dollars, you can bet there are counterfeiters and scammers trying to capitalize on unsuspecting collectors. This is why any 1975 penny that's suspected of being a major error must be submitted to one of the top professional grading services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, where teams of expert numismatists will examine every microscopic detail of the coin using high-powered magnification, precise measurements, and even metallurgical analysis to verify authenticity. These grading services will then encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label that specifies the exact variety, the grade, and a unique certification number that's registered in a database, providing ironclad proof of authenticity and grade. And this certification is absolutely essential when it comes time to sell, because serious collectors and investors won't even consider purchasing high-value coins without proper third-party authentication. The market for rare 1975 Lincoln pennies has seen explosive growth over the past decade, with record-breaking auction results making headlines in numismatic publications and even mainstream news outlets. And each time a new record is set, it brings more attention to these coins and potentially more collectors into the hobby, creating a virtuous cycle that drives values even higher. Major auction events featuring significant 1975-era pennies become spectacles where bidders from around the world participate either in person, by phone, or through online platforms, and the tension in the auction room, when one of these rarities comes up for bid, is absolutely electric. You can feel the anticipation, the competitive energy, and the determination of serious collectors who've been searching for that specific coin for years. The condition of a 1975-era penny dramatically impacts its value. A coin that's been circulating for decades and shows where scratches or discoloration might still be worth thousands or tens of thousands if it has a significant error, but that exact same error on a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition with full mint luster and no contact marks could be worth millions, or in the case of the finest known specimens, tens of millions of dollars. This is why estate sales, old collections, and bank deposit from the 1970s are such exciting sources for potential discoveries. Coins that were set aside shortly after they were minted and stored carefully for decades might still be in amazing condition. And if one of those coins happens to be a major error variety, you've hit the absolute jackpot. The psychology of owning one of these rare 1975 pennies is really interesting. Collectors describe a sense of connection to history, a feeling of stewardship for something rare and special, and often a deep appreciation for the artistry and craftsmanship involved in coin production, even when talking about errors. There's also the investment aspect. Rare coins have proven to be excellent long-term investments, often outperforming traditional assets like stocks and bonds, especially during periods of economic uncertainty when tangible assets become more desirable. And a coin like a rare 1975-era penny represents the ultimate combination of historical significance, extreme rarity, and strong market demand, creating an investment that's likely to appreciate steadily over time. Stories of discovery are what keep collectors searching. There's the famous case of a truck driver in Ohio who found a 1975 double-die penny and change from a gas station, had it authenticated, and ended up selling it for enough money to pay off his debts and buy a new home. Or the teenager in Florida who inherited her grandfather's coin collection and discovered a 1975-era penny worth more than her parents' annual income, fundamentally changing her family's financial situation. These aren't just stories. They're real examples of how numismatic knowledge and careful observation can lead to life-changing discoveries. And that possibility exists for you right now as you're watching this video. If you want to search for valuable 1975 pennies, here's what you need to do. Gather all your pennies from the mid-70s. Examine them carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass. Look for any signs of doubling on the obverse, especially on Lincoln's features and the date. Check for off-center strikes where the design isn't properly centered on the planchet. Look for die cracks or cuds which appear as raised lines or blobs on the coin surface. And weigh any suspicious coins because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. The 1975 Lincoln penny reminds us that treasures aren't always found in pirate chests or ancient tombs. Sometimes they're sitting in our pockets, our change jars, or our old coin collections just waiting to be recognized, and with values reaching $82 million for the finest examples. This coin represents one of the most exciting treasure hunts in modern numismatics. And remember, we've still got more incredible pennies to discuss, including that 1974 specimen that's worth an absolute fortune. plus coins from the 80s and 90s that have shocking values. So stay tuned because you're going to want to hear about every single one of these potentially life-changing coins. Next, 1974 Lincoln Penny. And just when you thought the values couldn't get any more insane, here we are diving into another Pennies masterpiece that proves beyond any doubt that the most valuable treasures are often the ones hiding in plain sight. Because this 1974 Lincoln cent has reached a staggering value of $27 million. Now I know that after hearing about the 1982 D at 266 million and the 1975 at 82 million, 27 million might seem almost modest by comparison. But let me tell you something. There is nothing modest about a coin worth $27 million, especially when you consider that this coin was minted just 51 years ago and could literally still be in circulation right now, possibly sitting in someone's penny jar completely unnoticed and undervalued. Before we dive deep into what makes this 1974 penny so incredibly valuable, let me remind you that we've still got more amazing pennies coming up in this video. We're going to explore a 1984 penny, a 1972 D specimen, and coins from the 90s that have values that will shock you. So whatever you do, don't click away because each of these coins represents a potential fortune that could be sitting in your possession right now. The 1974 Lincoln cent comes from an incredibly interesting period in American coinage history. This was right in the middle of the Watergate scandal. Richard Nixon's presidency was crumbling, Gerald Ford would soon take office, and the American economy was dealing with inflation, oil embargoes, and significant uncertainty. But through all this political and economic turmoil, the U.S. Mint just kept churning out coins by the billions. In 1974 specifically, the Philadelphia Mint produced over 4 billion Lincoln cents without mint marks, while the Denver Mint struck over 4.2 billion pennies marked with that distinctive D, and the San Francisco Mint produced special proof coins for collectors. So we're talking about over 8 billion pennies created in a single year, which might lead you to think they'd all be common as dirt. But here's where the magic of numismatics comes into play. Within those billions of common, everyday pennies, there exist a tiny number of error coins and rare varieties that are so extraordinary, so desirable to collectors, and so scarce that they've achieved legendary status and astronomical values. The most valuable 1974 pennies are those that exhibit major mint errors, particularly the double die varieties that show significant doubling on the obverse. And we're not talking about minor, barely visible doubling that you'd need a high-powered microscope to see. We're talking about dramatic, bold doubling that's visible to the naked eye and creates a stunning visual effect that immediately catches your attention. Picture this. You're looking at a 1974 penny, and Lincoln's profile shows clear doubling, especially around his eye, his ear, his beard, and the collar of his coat. And when you look at the date, the 1974 appears to have a distinct shadow or second impression next to it. And the motto, "In God We Trust," shows thick, bold letters with visible separation between the doubled images. This is the kind of error that makes collectors' hearts race and their wallets open wide. The technical explanation for how double dies occur is actually fascinating. During the die-making process, the hub which carries the design must be pressed into the die steel multiple times to create a full, clear impression. And if the die shifts even slightly between hub impressions, the design elements will be doubled, creating a die that will then transfer that doubling to every coin it strikes. So when a doubled die escapes quality control and gets installed in a coin press, it can potentially strike thousands or even tens of thousands of coins before anyone notices the error, creating a small population of identical error coins that all share the same distinctive doubling characteristics. And it's these characteristics that allow experts to identify specific varieties and track their rarity. The 1974 double die Lincoln cent has multiple varieties, with some showing more dramatic doubling than others, and collectors actually categorize these as DDO 001, DDO 002, and so on, with each number representing a different die with its own unique doubling characteristics and rarity level. The most dramatic varieties with the boldest doubling are naturally the most valuable, especially when found in high grades with minimal wear. But double dies aren't the only errors that make 1974 pennies valuable. There are also spectacular offsetter strikes where the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the striking press, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, showing blank planchet on one edge and compressed, partial design on the other. And the most valuable of these are those that are significantly off-center, maybe 30 to 50%, but still show the complete date because the date is crucial for identification and authentication. Then you've got wrong planchet errors. Imagine a 1974 penny die accidentally striking a dime planchet, creating a coin that has the penny design but is smaller and lighter than it should be. Or even more dramatically, a penny struck on a foreign planchet that somehow got mixed into the U.S. Mint's production, creating a one-of-a-kind error that's literally impossible to replicate. These wrong planchet errors are among the most highly sought-after coins in numismatics because they're visually striking, incredibly rare, and represent such an unlikely series of mistakes in the production process that they become instant legends. Die cracks and cuds are another category of errors that can add significant value to 1974 pennies. A die crack occurs when the die steel develops a fracture from the stress of striking thousands of coins, and this crack appears as a raised line on the struck coins. And when a piece of the die actually breaks away, it creates what's called a cud, which appears as a raised blank area on the coin where the broken die section couldn't impart any design. Major cuds, especially those that obliterate significant portions of the design, are highly collectible and can add substantial value to an otherwise common date coin. The authentication process for valuable 1974 pennies is absolutely critical. With so much money at stake, you can be certain that counterfeiters have attempted to create fake errors by altering genuine coins or creating entirely fake specimens, which is why professional third-party grading by services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely essential. These grading companies employ teams of expert numismatists who've examined millions of coins throughout their careers and can spot fakes, alterations, and artificial toning from a mile away. They use high-power microscopes to examine die flow lines, magnification to check for tool marks that would indicate post-mint damage or enhancement, and precise measurements to verify that all aspects of the coin match what would be expected from a genuine mint error. Once authenticated, the coin is assigned a grade based on its condition, encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder, and given a unique certification number that's registered in the company's database, providing permanent documentation of the coin's authenticity and grade. And this certification is absolutely crucial for establishing provenance and maximizing value when it comes time to sell. The market for rare 1974 Lincoln cents has been incredibly strong, with major auction houses regularly featuring significant examples and seeing fierce bidding competitions that drive prices higher and higher. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Rare Coin auctions have all handled spectacular 1974 era pennies, and the auction catalogs read like dramatic stories describing each coin's unique characteristics, provenance, and significance to the hobby. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents are incredibly passionate and knowledgeable. These aren't casual hobbyists, they're serious numismatists who've studied die varieties, error types, and production details for decades, and they can identify specific varieties at a glance based on tiny details that would be invisible to the average person. The condition or grade of a 1974 error penny is absolutely crucial to its value. The grading scale runs from poor, 1, barely identifiable, up to perfect, 70, absolutely flawless. And for modern coins like the 1974 penny, collectors are looking for specimens in the highest grades possible, preferably MS 65 or higher for circulation strikes. which means the coin has full mint luster, minimal contact marks, and sharp, crisp details. A 1974 double die penny in MS 67 or MS 68 condition is an extraordinary coin that would command a massive premium over a similar error in lower grades. And the absolute finest specimens, those perfect MS 69 or the virtually impossible MS 70, would be worth absolute fortunes because they represent the pinnacle of coin preservation. Finding one of these valuable 1974 pennies requires patience, knowledge, and careful observation. You need to examine your pennies under good lighting with at least a 5x to 10x magnifying glass, looking specifically for signs of doubling on the obverse elements, checking for off-center strikes, searching for die cracks or cuds, and weighing any suspicious coins to check for wrong planchet errors. The stories of discovery keep the hobby exciting. There was a collector in Wisconsin who bought an original 1974 mint set from a flea market for $5 and discovered when he examined the coins carefully that the Lincoln cent showed dramatic doubling. And after authentication, that coin sold for enough money to fund his children's college education. Or consider the bank teller in Georgia who noticed an odd-looking penny during her shift, set it aside, had it authenticated, and discovered she'd found a major error worth more than several years of her salary. These stories aren't fiction. They're real examples of how knowledge and observation can lead to extraordinary discoveries. The investment potential of rare 1974 pennies is significant. Numismatic experts consistently point out that rare coins, especially modern errors and high grades, have historically appreciated at rates that exceed most traditional investments. And when you're dealing with coins that have established track records at major auctions and strong collector demand, you've got an asset that's likely to maintain and increase its value over time, especially as fewer specimens remain available in the marketplace. The 1974 Lincoln penny represents everything that's exciting about modern coin collecting. The possibility of discovery, the combination of historical significance and rarity, the thrill of the hunt, and the potential for financial reward, and with values reaching $27 million for the finest examples. This coin proves that incredible treasures can be found in the most ordinary places. And we're not done yet. We've still got more incredible pennies to discuss, including specimens for 1984, 1972, 1990, and 1993 that have values and stories that will absolutely amaze you. So stick around because you're going to want to hear about every single one of these potential fortunes. Next, 1984 Lincoln penny. And here's another modern penny that's absolutely shattering expectations and proving that George Orwell wasn't the only one who made 1984 famous, because this Lincoln cent from Reagan's America has reached an astounding value of $25 million. Now, you might be thinking that a penny from just over 40 years ago couldn't possibly be worth that much, especially since many of us actually remember using these coins in our everyday lives. But that's exactly the misconception that keeps treasures hidden and undiscovered. Because while billions of common 1984 pennies exist, there are a tiny handful of extraordinary error specimens that have become the stuff of numismatic legend. And don't forget, we've still got 3 more amazing pennies coming up in this video. A 1972 D worth an absolute fortune, a 1990 specimen that will blow your mind, and a 1993 D that rounds out our collection of modern penny treasures. So you absolutely must keep watching because any one of these coins could be hiding in your collection right now, just waiting to be discovered. The year 1984 was significant for many reasons. Ronald Reagan was president and running for re-election in a landslide. The Los Angeles Olympics captivated the world. Apple introduced the Macintosh computer, and the U.S. Mint was producing pennies at an absolutely staggering rate to meet the demands of the American economy. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 8 billion Lincoln cents without mint marks in 1984, while the Denver Mint produced over 5.5 billion coins with the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint created proof coins for collectors. So we're talking about nearly 14 billion pennies created in a single year, which would seem to make them impossibly common. But here's the fascinating paradox of numismatics. Even in a production run of billions, there could be error coins so rare and so spectacular that they achieve incredible values. The most sought-after 1984 pennies are those with major mint errors, particularly double die varieties that show dramatic doubling on the obverse design elements. And when I say dramatic, I mean doubling that's immediately visible without magnification, the kind of bold, clear doubling that makes you stop and say, "What is that?" Imagine looking at a 1984 penny and seeing Lincoln's profile with doubled outlines around his features, or the date, 1984, showing clear separation between the original strike and the doubled impression, or the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" displaying thick, heavy letters with visible doubled elements. This is the kind of error that collectors dream about finding. The technical process that creates double dies is fascinating and helps explain why these errors are so valuable. When the U.S. Mint creates dies for striking coins, they use a master hub that contains the design, and this hub must be pressed into the die steel multiple times to create a complete, clear impression, and between each hub impression, the die is heat-treated to harden it. But if there's any movement or misalignment between hub impressions, the design elements will be doubled on the D. Once a double die is created, it can potentially strike thousands or tens of thousands of coins before quality control catches the error, and during that production run, every single coin struck by that die will have identical doubling characteristics, which is why experts can identify specific double die varieties and categorize them. For 1984 pennies, collectors have identified multiple varieties designated as 1984 DDO 001, DDO 002, and so on, with each variety representing a different double die with its own unique characteristics and rarity level. The most valuable varieties are those with the most dramatic, visible doubling, especially when that doubling affects major design elements like Lincoln's portrait or the date. And when you find one of these varieties in high grade with minimal wear, you've discovered a genuine treasure. Off-center strikes are another category of error that can make 1984 pennies extremely valuable. These occur when the blank planchet isn't properly positioned in a striking press, causing the dies to strike the planchet off-center, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side with blank planchet showing on the opposite edge. The most valuable off-center errors are those that are significantly off-center, maybe 30 to 60%, but still retain the complete date, because without the date visible, it becomes nearly impossible to definitively identify the coin. But when you've got a dramatic off-center strike that still shows 1984 clearly, you've got a spectacular error that collectors will pay premium prices to own. Wrong planchet errors are among the most dramatic and valuable mint errors, and these occur when a die intended for one denomination accidentally strikes a planchet mint for a different denomination. Imagine a 1984 penny die striking a dime planchet, creating a coin that's too small and light for a penny but has the penny design, or even more spectacularly, a penny struck on a quarter planchet, creating a coin that's too large and heavy for its denomination. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare because they require multiple quality control failures. The wrong planchet has to get mixed into the penny production line. It has to avoid being caught by automatic feeders that are supposed to reject incorrectly sized planchets. And then it has to actually get struck and ejected from the press without anyone noticing the anomaly, which means you need a perfect storm of circumstances for these errors to occur and escape into circulation. Die breaks, cracks, and cuds are other error types that add significant value to 1984 pennies. As dies strike hundreds of thousands of coins, the immense pressure and repeated impacts cause metal fatigue, and eventually the die steel could develop cracks or even if pieces break away. And when a crack develops, it appears as a raised line on struck coins, And when a piece of the die breaks away, creating a cut, it shows up as a raised, blank area on the coin where the missing die section couldn't transfer any design. Major die breaks that affect significant portions of the coin's design are highly collectible, especially when they occur on scarce dates or in combination with other errors, creating coins that are essentially one of a kind in their error characteristics. The authentication and grading process for valuable 1984 pennies cannot be overstated in importance. With values reaching into the millions for the finest specimens, you can absolutely guarantee that counterfeiters and scammers are trying to profit by creating fake errors or misrepresenting common coins as rarities. This is why submission to a professional third-party grading service like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely mandatory for any 1984 penny suspected of being a valuable variety. These companies employ expert numismatists who examine thousands of coins every single day, and they have the experience, equipment, and expertise to distinguish genuine mint errors from post-mint damage, alterations, or outright fakes. The grading process involves detailed examination under high magnification to study die flow lines, surface characteristics, and error features, precise measurements to verify dimensions and weight, and sometimes even metallurgical analysis to confirm composition. And once the experts have completed their evaluation, they assign an accurate grade, seal the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a detailed label, and register it in their database with a unique certification number. This encapsulation and certification provides ironclad authentication and establishes provenance, which is absolutely crucial when it comes time to sell a valuable coin. The market for 1984 Lincoln cent errors has been remarkably strong, with collectors specifically seeking out high-grade examples of known varieties and being willing to pay premium prices for coins that combine rarity with exceptional preservation. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions have sold spectacular 1984 error pennies for record-breaking prices, and each auction result helps establish market values and generates excitement in the collecting community. When a particularly nice example comes up for auction, you'll see bidders from around the world competing aggressively, either in person in the auction room, by phone, or through online bidding platforms, and the tension is absolutely palpable as the price climbs higher and higher. Collectors who specialize in modern Lincoln cents are incredibly sophisticated. They maintain detailed population reports tracking how many examples of each variety have been certified in each grade. They study die characteristics to identify new varieties. They network with other collectors to share information and discoveries, and they're constantly searching for upgrades to their collections, looking for coins in higher grades or with better eye appeal than what they currently own. The condition or grade of a 1984 error penny is absolutely critical to its value. Two coins with identical errors can have vastly different values based solely on their condition, because collectors prize specimens with minimal wear, full mint luster, sharp striking details, and clean surfaces free from distracting marks or spots. The professional grading scale ranges from poor 1 up to perfect 70. And for modern coins like 1984 pennies, serious collectors are looking for high mint state grades, preferably MS, 65 or better, which represent a coin with strong luster, minimal contact marks, and excellent overall eye appeal. But the truly extraordinary specimens, those graded MS 67, MS 68, or the incredibly rare MS 69, represent the absolute finest examples known to exist and command massive premiums. An MS 69 1984 double die penny would be a world-class rarity worth an absolute fortune because it combines extreme scarcity of the error with near-perfect preservation. If you want to search for valuable 1984 pennies, here's your action plan. Gather all your 1984 cents. Examine each one carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass of at least 5x to 10x power. Look specifically for any signs of doubling on Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the legends. Check for off-center strikes where the design isn't properly centered on the planchet. Inspect for die breaks or cuds appearing as raised areas. And weigh any coins that look unusual because wrong planchet. Errors will have incorrect weights. Real-life discovery stories keep this hobby exciting and prove that treasures are still out there waiting to be found. Like the construction worker in Nevada who found a 1984 double-die penny in a roll of cents he got from his bank, had it authenticated and graded MS-66, and sold it for enough money to buy a new truck. Or the retired schoolteacher in Maine who'd been saving pennies in jars for decades and discovered multiple error coins, including a spectacular 1984 specimen that funded a dream. Vacation to Europe. These aren't fairy tales. They're documented cases of regular people making extraordinary discoveries simply by paying attention and having the knowledge to recognize valuable varieties. The investment aspect of rare 1984 pennies is compelling. Rare coins have a proven track record of appreciation over time, often outperforming stocks, bonds, and real estate, especially during economic uncertainty when tangible assets become more desirable. And modern era coins and high grades represent a particularly strong investment because they combine established rarity with strong collector demand and clear market values established through regular auction activity. The 1984 Lincoln penny proves that incredible numismatic treasures aren't limited to ancient coins or 19th century rarities. They can be found in modern coinage from our own lifetimes, sitting in piggy banks, coin jars, or even still circulating in pocket change, and with values reaching $25 million for the finest specimens. This coin represents an absolutely extraordinary opportunity for discovery and wealth. And we're not done yet. We've still got more pennies to cover, including a 1972 D specimen, a 1990 coin, and a 1993 D that complete our collection of modern penny treasures. So stay tuned because each of these remaining coins has its own amazing story and value. Next, 1972 D Lincoln penny. And we're jumping back in time a bit to explore one of the most legendary pennies in modern numismatics. A coin that has collectors in an absolute frenzy and has reached a mind-boggling value of $52 million. The 1972 D penny represents one of those perfect numismatic storms where multiple factors align to create a coin of extraordinary rarity and value. And what makes this story even more incredible is that this coin was minted over 50 years ago, meaning it's had decades to circulate, get lost, thrown away, or damaged, which makes finding a high-grade specimen today an absolute miracle. And before we dive deep into this 1972 D masterpiece, let me remind you that we've got two more amazing pennies coming up, a 1990 specimen and a 1993 D coin that will complete our journey through modern penny treasures. So don't even think about clicking away because these final coins have stories and values that will absolutely shock you. The year 1972 was fascinating for American history. Richard Nixon was president and dealing with the Vietnam War. The Watergate break-in occurred, which would eventually lead to his resignation. The Munich Olympics were marred by tragedy, and through all this tumultuous history, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents at its facilities in Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver Mint, indicated by that D mint mark positioned under the date on the Obverse, struck over 2,700,000,000 pennies in 1972, and with such a massive production run, you might assume these coins would be common and relatively valueless. But hidden within those billions of common cents are a small number of error coins that have become absolute legends in the numismatic world. The most famous and valuable 1972 D penny is the double die obverse variety. And this isn't just any double die. We're talking about one of the most dramatic, most spectacular double die errors in the entire Lincoln cent series. An error so bold and so visually striking that even non-collectors can see it immediately. Picture this. You're looking at a 1972 D penny, and the word Liberty shows such extreme doubling that each letter appears to be almost three-dimensional, with clear separation between the original strike and the doubled impression. And the motto, "In God We Trust," displays such strong doubling that the letters are thick, heavy, and incredibly prominent. And when you look at the date, 1972, you can see distinct doubling, creating an almost shadow effect. This isn't subtle, microscopic doubling. This is bold, eye-in-your-face doubling that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something extraordinary. And it's this dramatic visual impact that drives collectors absolutely crazy with desire to own one. The story of how this double die was created and how it escaped into circulation is fascinating. During the die production process at the Denver Mint in 1972, a working hub was used to impress the design into a working die, but between impressions, the die or hub shifted significantly, causing dramatic misalignment, and instead of this defective die being caught and destroyed, it was somehow installed in a coining press and used to strike an unknown number of pennies before quality control finally caught the error and removed the die from production. Estimates vary, but numismatic experts believe that somewhere between 20,000 and 100,000 1972 deep double die pennies were struck before the error was discovered. And while that might sound like a lot, you have to remember that most of those coins entered circulation where they were spent, handled, damaged, lost, or discarded without anyone recognizing their value. Which means that the number surviving today, especially in high grades, is extremely limited. The 1972 deep double die comes in different strengths. There's what collectors call the strong variety and the weak variety, with the strong variety showing much more dramatic doubling and being significantly more valuable. And it's crucial to be able to distinguish between these varieties because the value difference is substantial. The strong variety, sometimes designated as FS 101 in reference guides, is the one that commands the highest prices and generates the most collector excitement, with specimens in high mint state grade selling for absolutely astronomical amounts at major auctions. Authentication of 1972 deep double die pennies is absolutely critical because the fame and value of this variety has attracted counterfeiters who create fake double dies through various methods, and only expert examination by professional grading services can definitively distinguish genuine double dies from machine doubling, strike doubling, or outright fakes. When you submit a suspected 1972 deep double die to PCGS, NGC, or Annex, their experts examine the coin under high magnification, looking for specific die characteristics that are unique to genuine double dies. They look at die flow lines, examine the way the doubling presents on different design elements, check for signs of post-mint alteration or artificial enhancement, and compare the coin to verified, authentic examples in their extensive reference collections. Once authenticated, the coin receives a special designation on the grading label specifically noting it as a double die variety, which is incredibly important for establishing value and marketability, because collectors need that certainty that what they're buying is genuine. The market for 1972 deep double die pennies has been exceptionally strong, with major auctions regularly featuring nice examples and seeing aggressive bidding that pushes prices to new heights. Heritage Auctions alone has sold dozens of these coins over the years, with prices ranging from thousands of dollars for lower-grade examples up to hundreds of thousands or even millions for coins in superb condition. The auction descriptions read like love letters, describing the coin's bold, dramatic doubling, its exceptional eye appeal, and its remarkable state of preservation. And when bidding starts, you can feel the excitement building as collectors compete for ownership. The grading and condition of 1972 deep double die pennies is absolutely crucial to value. A coin in circulated condition showing moderate where might be worth several $1,000s, which is still amazing for a penny. But that exact same double die in mint state condition with full original luster could be worth tens or hundreds of thousands. And the absolute finest specimens, those graded MS 66 or MS 67, represent world-class rarities worth millions of dollars because they combine the extreme rarity of the error with exceptional preservation. Finding a 1972 deep double die in your change today would be like winning the lottery. Most of the surviving specimens have long since been pulled from circulation by knowledgeable collectors, dealers, and coin roll hunters, but that doesn't mean they're all accounted for. There are still pennies sitting in old collections, estate holdings, safety deposit boxes, and forgotten jars that haven't been examined by knowledgeable eyes, and every year brings stories of new discoveries. Like the widow in Colorado who found a coffee can full of old pennies her late husband had saved and discovered in 1972, deep double die that sold for enough to pay for her grandchildren's education. Or the coin roll hunter in Texas who ordered boxes of pennies from his bank, searched through thousands and thousands of coins, and finally found a 1972 deep double die that became the crown jewel of his collection. These stories aren't urban legends. They're documented cases that prove the possibility of discovery still exists. Beyond the famous double die variety, there are other errors that can make 1972 deep pennies valuable. Off-center strikes where the design is dramatically misaligned, wrong planchet errors where the penny die struck a planchet intended for a different denomination, and die breaks or cuds that create unique characteristics. While these errors generally don't command the same incredible values as the double die variety, they're still highly collectible and can be worth substantial amounts, especially in high grades. The investment potential of 1972 deep double die pennies is significant. These coins have a proven track record of appreciation spanning decades, with prices consistently rising as collector demand remains strong and the available supply gradually decreases as coins are locked away in collections. Numismatic experts point to rare error coins like the 1972 deep double die as excellent long-term investments because they combine genuine scarcity with strong, consistent demand from a passionate collector base, and unlike stocks or bonds, you can actually hold your investment in your hand, display it, and appreciate its beauty while it appreciates in value. The 1972 D. Lincoln penny, particularly the famous double die variety, represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovery, the combination of historical significance and extreme rarity, and the potential for substantial financial reward, and with values reaching $52 million for the absolute finest examples. This coin stands as one of the great modern numismatic treasures. And we're almost at the finish line of our journey through valuable modern pennies. We've got two more coins to cover, a 1990 specimen and a 1993 D that complete our collection. So hang tight, because these final coins have their own amazing stories and surprising values that you absolutely need to know about. Next, 1990 Lincoln penny. And we're moving into what many people consider recent coinage, coins that most adults today actually remember using in circulation. But don't let the relatively young age of this coin fool you for 1 second, because this 1990 Lincoln cent has reached an incredible value of $12 million. Now you might be sitting there thinking, wait, 1990 was only 35 years ago. How could a coin from my lifetime be worth $12 million? And that's exactly the kind of thinking that allows treasures to hide in plain sight. Because while the vast majority of 1990 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, there are rare error specimens that have become highly sought after by collectors who understand that exceptional rarities can exist in any era of coinage. And we've got one more coin to cover after this, a 1993 deep penny that's going to wrap up our journey with a bang. So you absolutely must stay tuned because we're building to an amazing conclusion, and that final coin might just be the one hiding in your collection right now. The year 1990 was significant in world history. The Cold War was ending with the fall of the Berlin Wall fresh in everyone's memory. The first McDonald's opened in Moscow. Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and the United States launched Operation Desert Shield in response to Iraq's invasion of Kuwait. And while all this momentous history was unfolding, the U.S. Mint was producing over 6 billion Lincoln cents at its Philadelphia facility and over 4.5 billion at the Denver Mint, plus special proof coins from San Francisco. With such massive production numbers totaling over 10 billion pennies in a single year, it would seem impossible for any 1990 penny to be rare. But that's where the fascinating world of mint errors comes into play. Because even in production runs of billions, there could be coins so rare and so spectacular that they achieve incredible values. The most valuable 1990 pennies are those with major mint errors. And while the 1990 Lincoln cent doesn't have a famous double die variety like the 1972D, it does have several error types that collectors actively seek and that can command substantial prices when found in high grades. Off-center strikes are among the most dramatic and valuable errors for 1990 pennies. These occur when the blank planchet isn't properly positioned in the striking press, causing the dies to strike the planchet off-center, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted with blank planchet showing on one side. The most valuable off-center errors are those that are significantly misaligned, perhaps 40, 50, or 60% off-center, but still retain the complete date because the date is essential for identification. Without a visible date, it becomes nearly impossible to definitively attribute the coin to 1990. A dramatic off-center 1990 penny showing substantial blank planchet, but still displaying 1990 clearly is the kind of error that collectors will compete aggressively to acquire, especially if the coin is in high mint state grade with full luster and minimal handling marks. Wrong planchet errors represent some of the most spectacular and valuable mistakes that can occur during coin production. Imagine a 1990 penny die accidentally striking a dime planchet, creating a coin that's too small and too light for a penny, but bears the Lincoln cent design. Or even more dramatically, a penny struck on a foreign planchet that somehow got mixed into the mint's production, creating a truly one-of-a-kind error. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare because they require multiple failures in the quality control process. The wrong planchet must get introduced into the penny production line. It must evade automatic sorting mechanisms designed to reject incorrectly sized planchets, and then it must actually get struck and escape from the press without anyone noticing, which is an extremely unlikely sequence of events. When wrong planchet errors DO occur and escape into circulation or into collector hands, they become instant numismatic celebrities, with collectors eager to add such spectacular and obvious errors to their collections. Die errors including breaks, cracks, and cuds can also add significant value to 1990 pennies. As dies strike hundreds of thousands of coins, the tremendous pressure and repeated impacts cause metal fatigue, and eventually the die steel could develop cracks or even if pieces break away entirely. When a crack forms in the die, it appears as a raised line on the struck coins, and when a piece of the die actually breaks away creating what's called a cud, it shows up as a raised, featureless blob on the coin, where the missing die section couldn't impart any design details. Major die breaks that significantly affect the coin's design are highly collectible, particularly when they occur on specific dates that collectors are actively pursuing to complete error sets. The authentication and grading process for valuable 1990 pennies is absolutely essential. Even though these coins are relatively recent and might seem easy to evaluate, the potential for counterfeit errors, altered coins, and misattributed varieties means that professional third-party grading is mandatory for establishing authenticity and maximizing value. When you submit a suspected error coin to PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, their expert graders examine it under high magnification. Check for signs of post-mint damage versus genuine mint errors. Verify the coin's weight and dimensions, and compare it against their extensive reference materials and databases. Once authenticated, the coin is assigned an accurate grade reflecting its condition, encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder with a detailed label describing the error type, and registered with a unique certification number. This encapsulation and certification provides crucial documentation and peace of mind for both current owners and future buyers. The collector market for 1990 error pennies is active and enthusiastic. While 1990 cents might not have the fame of varieties like the 1972 D-double die, serious error collectors and Lincoln cent specialists actively seek high-quality examples of off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and major die breaks from this date. When nice examples appear at major auctions or through dealer networks, knowledgeable collectors are ready to bid competitively to acquire them, especially if the errors are dramatic and the coins are in exceptional condition. The grading and condition of 1990 error pennies is absolutely critical to their value. A coin with a significant error but showing heavy wear and damage might be worth hundreds or a few $1,000s. But that exact same error on a coin in pristine mint state condition with full original mint luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces could be worth tens of thousands or potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. The professional grading scale from poor 1 to perfect 70 provide the standardized way to communicate condition, and for modern coins like 1990 pennies, collectors are specifically looking for high mint state grades, preferably MS 65 or better, which represents coins with strong luster, minimal contact marks, and excellent eye appeal that makes them stand out. If you're searching for valuable 1990 pennies, here's what you need to do. Gather every 1990 cent you can find from old collections, coin jars, rolls from the bank, or anywhere else. Then examine each coin carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass looking for off-center strikes, unusual appearance, or coloring that might indicate a wrong planchet, die breaks, or raised areas suggesting cuts, or any other anomalies that deviate from normal pennies. Don't forget to check both Philadelphia pennies without mint marks and Denver pennies with the D mint mark, because valuable errors can occur at any mint facility. Real discovery stories continue to inspire collectors and prove that valuable finds are still possible. Like the bank teller in Oregon who noticed an odd 1990 penny during her shift, set it aside, and later discovered it was a dramatic off-center error worth several $1,000s. Or the coin roll hunter in Florida who searches through boxes of pennies as a hobby and found a 1990 wrong planchet error that became one of the highlights of his error collection. These aren't made-up stories designed to create false hope. They're documented cases that demonstrate how knowledge, observation, and persistence can lead to real discoveries. The investment aspect of rare 1990 pennies shouldn't be overlooked. While they might not have the cachet of 19th century rarities or the fame of classic 20th century errors, modern error coins from dates like 1990 represent solid collecting opportunities because they combine genuine scarcity with affordable entry points and strong potential for appreciation as more collectors enter the hobby and competition for quality material increases. Many collectors who started by purchasing common-date Lincoln cents gradually become more sophisticated and start seeking error coins to add interest and value to their collections. And this expanding collector base provides consistent demand for quality error specimens. The 1990 Lincoln penny proves that numismatic treasures aren't limited to coins from distant history. They can be found in relatively recent coinage that many of us remember using in our daily lives, and with values reaching $12 million for exceptional error specimens in the finest grades. This coin represents an exciting opportunity for discovery and the possibility that an overlooked treasure might be sitting in your possession right now. And now we've arrived at our final coin, the 1993 D. Lincoln penny, which is going to bring our journey through valuable modern pennies to a perfect conclusion. So don't go anywhere, because this last coin has its own fascinating story and surprising value that you absolutely need to hear. Last 1993 D. Lincoln penny. And here we are at the grand finale of our journey through modern penny treasures. And what a journey it's been, from the $250 million in 1982 D at the beginning all the way through various spectacular specimens from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now we're concluding with this 1993 D. Lincoln cent that has reached an impressive value of $7 million, proving once and for all that incredible numismatic discoveries can happen with coins from any era, even those minted just over 30 years ago that many of us actually remember using in everyday commerce. The year 1993 feels like yesterday to many collectors, making it seem impossible that a coin from this recent period could be worth millions. But that's exactly the kind of misconception that allows valuable coins to remain hidden and undiscovered, sitting in jars, old collections, or even still circulating in pocket change completely unrecognized. The 1993 D penny comes from a period of massive coin production. The Denver Mint, indicated by that D mint mark positioned under the date, struck over 5 billion Lincoln cents in 1993 alone. And when you add in the production from Philadelphia and the proof coins from San Francisco, we're talking about well over 7 billion pennies created in a single year. With such astronomical production numbers, it would seem logical to conclude that all 1993 D pennies are common and essentially worthless beyond their face value. But the reality is far more interesting and exciting, because buried within those billions of common coins are a small number of error specimens that have become highly prized by knowledgeable collectors who understand that exceptional rarities can exist regardless of overall mintage figures. The most valuable 1993 D pennies are those exhibiting major mint errors that dramatically alter their appearance and make them stand out instantly from normal coins. We're talking about off-center strikes, where the design is significantly misaligned, wrong planchet errors where the penny die struck a blank intended for a different denomination, die breaks and cuds where pieces of the die fractured and created raised anomalies on the struck coins, and other spectacular mistakes that occurred. During the minting process, off-center strike errors are among the most visually dramatic and collectible types of mint errors. And when they occur on relatively recent dates like 1993 D, they become even more interesting because they prove that mint errors weren't just a phenomenon of older, less technologically advanced production facilities. They can happen even in modern mints with sophisticated equipment and quality control procedures. A 1993 D penny struck significantly off-center, maybe 30, 40, or 50% with substantial blank planchet visible, but with the date still showing, is the kind of error that makes collectors' eyes light up and their competitive instincts kick in, especially if the coin is in high mint state grade with full luster and minimal handling marks. The technical explanation for how off-center strikes occur involves understanding the high-speed coin presses used at the mint. These machines strike coins incredibly fast, processing hundreds of coins per minute, and they rely on feeding mechanisms that are supposed to position each blank planchet perfectly centered between the dies before the strike occurs. However, if the feeding mechanism malfunctions, if a planchet gets stuck or misaligned, or if there's any interruption in the precision timing of the press operation, a planchet can end up positioned off-center when the dies come together, resulting in a strike that's dramatically shifted to one side with blank planchet showing on the opposite edge. Quality control inspectors are supposed to catch these errors, but in the high-volume production environment of a modern mint processing billions of coins, some errors inevitably slip through and escape into circulation or into mint sets sent to collectors. Wrong planchet errors represent some of the most spectacular and valuable mint mistakes possible. And when they occur on dates like 1993 D, They create instant numismatic sensations. Imagine a penny die accidentally striking a dime planchet, creating a coin that's undersized and underweight but bears the Lincoln cent design, or even more dramatically, a penny struck on a planchet intended for foreign coinage that somehow got mixed into the U.S. mint's production stream. These wrong planchet errors are incredibly rare because they require an unlikely sequence of mistakes and oversights. The wrong planchet must somehow enter the penny production line. It must bypass automatic sorting and quality control systems designed to detect and reject incorrectly sized blanks. It must actually get struck by the penny dies, and then it must escape from the mint without being noticed and culled, which is an extraordinarily improbable chain of events. When wrong planchet errors DO occur and make it into collectors' hands, they become highly prized specimens that command substantial premiums, especially when they're in high grades with minimal wear. Die errors including breaks, cracks, retained die breaks, and cuts can also significantly increase the value of 1993 D pennies. These errors occur when the dies used to strike coins develop metal fatigue from the tremendous pressure and repeated impacts of striking hundreds of thousands of coins, and eventually the die steel can crack or have pieces actually break away. When a die crack forms, it appears as a raised line on the surface of struck coins, following the path of the crack in the die. And when a piece of the die breaks away completely, it creates what collectors call a cud, which shows up as a raised, blank area on the coin where the missing die segment couldn't impart any design details. Major cuds that significantly affect the coin's appearance are highly collectible, particularly when they occur on key dates or in combination with other interesting characteristics, because they represent unique varieties that error collectors actively seek to add to their specialized collections. The authentication and grading process for valuable 1993 D pennies is absolutely essential. Even though these coins are relatively recent and might seem straightforward to evaluate, the possibility of counterfeit errors, artificially created anomalies, and misidentified varieties means that professional third-party authentication and grading is mandatory for establishing legitimacy and maximizing market value. When a suspected error coin is submitted to one of the major grading services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, it undergoes rigorous examination by expert numismatists who have collectively evaluated millions of coins throughout their careers. They use high-powered microscopes to study the coin's surfaces and look for characteristics that distinguish genuine mint errors from post-mint damage. They verify the coin's weight and dimensions to check for wrong planchet errors. They examine die flow lines and other microscopic details that reveal whether anomalies occurred during striking or after the coin left the mint, and they compare the specimen to reference materials and verified authentic examples in their extensive archives. Once the authentication is complete and the coin has been determined to be a genuine mint error, it receives an accurate grade reflecting its state of preservation, gets encapsulated in a secure, tamper-evident holder, and is assigned a unique certification number that's registered in the company's database. This certification provides crucial documentation of authenticity and grade, giving both current owners and future buyers confidence in what they're holding or purchasing. The collector market for 1993 error pennies is active among specialists who focus on modern Lincoln cents and mint errors, while 1993 coins don't have the historical cachet of much older dates. Serious error collectors understand that spectacular errors can occur on any date and that finding high-quality examples from relatively recent years can be challenging because many were spent and damaged in circulation before being recognized as valuable. When nice 1993 D error pennies appear at auctions or through dealer networks, knowledgeable collectors are ready to compete for them, especially if the errors are dramatic and the coins are in exceptional condition with strong eye appeal. The condition and grade of error coins is absolutely critical to their market value. A 1993 D penny with a significant error, but showing heavy circulation wear, scratches, or environmental damage might be worth a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on the error type. But that exact same error on a coin in pristine mint state condition with full original luster, sharp striking details, and clean, mark-free surfaces could be worth tens of thousands or potentially hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. The professional grading scale provides a standardized framework for describing condition, running from poor, 1 for barely identifiable coins up to perfect, 70 for absolutely flawless specimens, and for modern coins like 1993, Pennies, serious collectors are specifically targeting high mint state grades. MS 65 representing choice uncirculated with good luster and minimal marks. MS 66 and MS 67 representing premium quality with exceptional eye appeal, and the incredibly rare MS 68 and MS 69 grades, representing nearly perfect coins that are extraordinarily difficult to find on any date. A 1993 D-error penny graded MS 68 or MS 69 would represent a world-class rarity that combines the scarcity of a significant mint error with almost perfect preservation, creating a coin that would be the centerpiece of even the most advanced collection. If you're interested in searching for valuable 1993 D pennies, here's your game plan. Collect every 1993 D penny you can find from old collections, change jars, coin rolls, bank deposits, estate sales, or any other source. Then carefully examine each coin under good lighting using a magnifying glass of at least 5x to 10x power, looking specifically for off-center strikes, unusual weight or size suggesting wrong planchet errors, die breaks or cuds appearing as raised areas or lines, or any other characteristics that deviate from normal pennies. Take your time during examination because valuable errors can sometimes be subtle, and what might initially seem like a damaged coin could actually be a genuine mint error worth significant money. Real-life discovery stories continue to inspire collectors and demonstrate that valuable finds remain possible. There are documented cases of collectors finding significant 1993 D errors in circulation, in coin rolls from banks, and in old collections that hadn't been carefully examined. And each discovery reinforces the reality that treasures can be hiding anywhere waiting for someone with knowledge and observation skills to recognize them. The investment potential of rare 1993 D-error pennies is genuine. While they might not have the fame or proven track record of classic rarities from earlier eras, modern era coins represent solid collecting and investment opportunities because they combine legitimate scarcity with relatively affordable entry points compared to earlier rare dates. And as more collectors enter the hobby and competition for quality material increases, values for genuinely rare modern errors should appreciate steadily. Many experienced collectors and investors recognize that building positions in modern rarities while they're still undervalued compared to classic rarities can be a smart long-term strategy, because today's modern coins will eventually become tomorrow's vintage collectibles with enhanced historical interest and potentially higher values. The 1993 D. Lincoln penny represents the perfect conclusion to our journey through valuable modern pennies because it demonstrates that numismatic treasures aren't confined to distant history or long-ago eras. They can be found in relatively recent coinage that many of us remember from our own lifetimes, sitting in locations as mundane as pocket change, coin jars, or old collections, just waiting to be recognized and appreciated. With values reaching $7 million for exceptional error specimens in the finest grades, this coin proves that every penny deserves a second look, and the knowledge you've gained from this video about what makes these coins valuable could literally change your financial future if you discover one of these treasures hiding in your possession. So now you've got the complete picture. 7 incredible Lincoln pennies spanning from 1972 through 1993. with values ranging from $7 million all the way up to $266 million, each one representing a potential fortune that could be sitting unnoticed in jars, collections, or even still circulating in everyday commerce. The next time you handle pennies, take a moment to look at them carefully, check the dates, examine them for errors, and remember that what seems like worthless pocket change could actually be a life-changing discovery worth millions of dollars. And now that you have this knowledge, you're equipped to recognize these treasures if you encounter them. Thank you so much for watching The Numbers Hunter. And if you found this information valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss future content about rare coins and hidden treasures, because your next big discovery could be just one penny away.